I just arrived in country. Can I take test now?
Of course.
I just arrived in country. Can I take test now?
I'm sorry, sir. You have an appointment.
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. I went to college at a big state school, and I had roommates, okay? And we shared a house together, and we trusted each other, right? And made sure that, like, everyone's property was respected. But if I'd come home one day and one of my roommates had burned down our house and was, like, standing out front with a can of gasoline and a pack of matches and was smiling, I'd say, you, son of a bitch, you I hate you. I wouldn't like him. I wouldn't like that person at all because, they've destroyed my house. They destroyed my property. They clearly didn't care about me, and they've betrayed me. And that is precisely actually exactly what's going on with the Democrat Party in Chicago right now. Chicago residents who's, well, been roommates with the Democrat Party. They've been letting the Democrat Party run their city for nigh on 75 years. I think it's been almost 100 years since Chicago had a Republican mayor. Like, way back, like, the Kennedy era, Chicago was shady as hell, the way that they did elections, the way they rigged stuff for Democrats. And, well, now, it seems like the romance, the roommate, the partnership between the Democrat Party and the residents of Chicago is officially over. Why? Well, similar to the analogy of burning down the house, Democrats in Chicago are literally burning the place to the ground because of their sanctuary city migrant crisis that they have created. A migrant crisis that is set to perhaps flip Chicago red? Yeah, okay, let's read, ladies and gentlemen. Chicago hit by winds of change. Democrats flip on Brandon Johnson, he's the mayor, over migrant crisis in Windy City as they warn mayor that his and Biden's fault for backing the sanctuary cities. Chicago is going to turn purple, according to Democrat politicians. Chicago is struggling to care for more than 34,000 asylum seekers bussed in by Texas. Various Democrats are hoping to pull the sanctuary city status. Nope, just kidding. We're not a sanctuary city. Sanctuary city, of course, means that the city is morally, but more like legally obligated to provide housing and food and shelter to people that are there. And, well, what does that mean when nearly 40,000 people show up on your doorstep? Democrats have started turning Chicago on Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson over his handling of the migrant crisis. So Chicago can't deal with 34,000 asylum seekers, yet Joe Biden has let in like 5 million people into the country. So this is like a teeny, marginal fraction of what like the entire nation is trying to deal with. Chicago has spent $156 million on the crisis and still has 14,000 migrants in its 28 shelters and is fighting with the state of Illinois about where to build more. A victim services advocate and candidate for Cook County Board of Commissioners, a Democrat, is blowing the whistle on Brandon Johnson's policies. We have people who have come here illegally, who have jumped in line, Smith says, who is considering leading a recall against Johnson. So now Democrats are looking to recall the mayor that was just elected. This is, of course, with the shadow of the DNC convention that hangs, of course, over Chicago quite heavily. She puts the failure of the Windy City at the feet of Johnson, Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker, and Joe Biden. It's a Biden thing. It's a Pritzker thing. It's a Brandon Johnson thing. They wanted sanctuary cities. It's not Abbott's fault because he didn't ask for it. We asked for it, which is amazing clarity. Absolutely stunning clarity, actually, from this Democrat. Saying, like, we are the one, I guess this is her, right? Yeah, this is her. She's saying, we voted for this, and we didn't realize what we were voting for. We were too stupid, and now we're sorry, which is actually what it takes. People can have bad policy positions. I, for instance, in my youth, 20 years ago, supported the Iraq war, like, a lot. I was really, come on, let's go, fight for America. Like, that was wrong. You can admit that. You can admit that you were wrong. And that's okay. You just apologize, like I have, for the neocon tendencies of my youth, and then you move on and you get wiser. And you should allow other people, like this woman right here, to like apologize that the sanctuary city status was a horrible cancer on Chicago and is destroying that place. and well, we're getting wiser now. We're smarter now. There's a division in our Democratic Party. It has weakened, and it's going to get worse, she said. She's leading a recall petition against Brandon Johnson. The city of Chicago voters have woke up. The state of Illinois voters have woken up, and they are not standing with our old leadership. And she added, if the immigration crisis is going to flip the state of Illinois purple, Illinois, a state that first elected Barack Obama to the Senate, elected just one Republican governor and senator since the turn of the century. Illinois also, of course, Cook County specifically. This is the county that Chicago's in. Cook County is what it's called. That single county is what accounts for Joe Biden's win of Illinois. Without that one county, without a single county, just one in the whole state, the whole rest of the state, every county is red. Without that one county, Joe Biden doesn't win in Illinois. 18 electoral votes to Donald Trump, making the map almost damn near impossible for Democrats. No Republican has been elected mayor of Chicago since 1927. Okay, so 100. I said it's been 100 years. There you go. Shelters in converted warehouses in Chicago have been filled to the rim with new arrivals in poor conditions, leading the city commandeering other venues. Well, that's never a good thing when the government commandeers private property. The reality is, if you look at Chicago now, you have high unemployment rates among African-American youth in particular. You have a lack of mental health services in Chicago. You have thousands of homeless people in Chicago already that we have never, ever focused on. And now they're only focusing on migrants, say residents. If I were the mayor right now, I would make an executive decision to bring an end to the sanctuary city status. I would get rid of it because we were not prepared to deal with it. Look at the squalor and the horrors and the hell. You know, it was amazing. I was in Chicago airport earlier this fall, and there were these big blacked out parts of the airport with cops at the gates that never used to be there. And that's where they were housing migrants in O'Hare. It's truly and utterly despicable. It's inhumane, and it's human trafficking, which is what Democrats are guilty of. The black residents there are suing now the mayor of Chicago. They're suing the Democrat Party to halt the construction of more migrant facilities. This is not a race thing. There are blacks, Asians, Latinos that are all up in arms about this. Just the basic Chicago residents, like in general, are furious about this. And some residents are even threatening violence. They got one more time to deal with this because otherwise they're going to deal with it in the streets. We're going to take it over. Nobody's going to stop us from what we're going to do to them. Whoa. Watch this.
Many of these residents say they no longer have any tolerance for the disruptive behavior by those seeking asylum here. It's making them feel unsafe.
They disrespect us, they rob us, they harass us.
And their patience is wearing thin.
Let me say this. They got one more time to deal with it, because otherwise, next time they deal with it, they're going to deal with it from the streets. We're going to take over it. Nobody's going to be able to stop us from what we're going to do to them.
Much of the residents' anger was directed at city officials in attendance, including 20th Ward Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, Chicago Deputy Police Chief Stephen Chung, and Family and Support Services Commissioner Brandy Kanazi. At one point, police had to intervene, breaking up an argument during public comment.
This is also not the first clip that we've noticed where residents of Chicago are straight up saying, we're going to burn this place down if you don't do something about this. If you don't prioritize the actual people who are native to Chicago, if you keep importing people to dilute our political power and to make our neighborhoods less safe and more dangerous, we're going to pop off specifically at the DNC convention, which is pretty amazing. Listen to this.
For them, you're going to have the same office for us.
That's right.
You don't hear any other community talking this plural talk.
That's right.
They strictly speak for themselves.
You got to.
The Chinese in Chinatown speak for Chinese, right?
That's right.
The Greeks in Greek town speak for Greeks.
That's right.
The Hispanics in Little Village speak for Hispanics.
That's right.
Rightfully so. And black people speak for black people.
Oh, yes, sir.
Black Americans.
Yes, sir.
We're not African American. We're not people of color. We're not black and brown, minority.
That's right.
BIPOC, none of that. People, no, none of that. This is about our people demanding the resources, just as you're giving these people, these newcomers who are walking into this country.
That's right. You're right. Thank
And
you.
sister's correct. How do you take a new group of people that have paid no taxes, can't vote, and you put them in front of the voters?
I'm not going to pay them no damn taxes.
And so we say this to you, Mayor, Governor, President. If you think that they're that powerful that you have to acquiesce and answer to them over us, then you tell them to vote for you in these next elections.
That's right.
You tell them to support your Democratic National Convention. And we're going to show you how we feel about the Democratic National Convention.
Turn it out.
Thank you.
If you think you're going to have a peaceful Democratic National Convention in the city of Chicago while our people are starving,
That's right.
stay tuned.
So for those looking to Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, to have some type of leadership or stamina on this issue, here's a hysterical 2 straight minutes of a reporter asking the mayor, point blank, will you raise taxes to pay for illegals flooding the city? Oh, this is just chef's kiss. Watch.
You add a tax to help pay for the migrant crisis.
Here's what I've said repeatedly. This is an international crisis.
And we've
that
heard
requires,
you say that.
Okay, so then you know the answer then.
Well,
the
no,
federal
because the
government,
answer I asked is, are you adding a
is,
tax?
The answer is the federal government has to do its job.
And what if we don't?
Well, look, there are 30,000 Ukrainians in this city right now who sought asylum, who were refugees. What's the difference between that crisis and the crisis that we're experiencing now? So this is not an unprecedented demand. There were services that were attached to individuals who were seeking asylum from the Ukraine, and the federal government acted. And so my question is, and it's the question that everybody is raising, what's the difference between those who are seeking asylum in this country, 30,000 of whom are in the city of Chicago? What's the difference between Ukrainian refugees and those who are seeking asylum from Central and South America?
Right, but that's not the question that the people of Chicago are asking. The people of Chicago want to know, will you raise a tax, whether it be a property tax or implement something else?
Well, it's interesting. No one has ever asked me if I'm going to raise a tax. In fact, I did not raise property taxes. And still, without raising property taxes, a full investment in homelessness, $250 million, $100 million for violence prevention. We're going to open up mental health clinics. We've eliminated sub-minimum wage. Black and brown women who were tip workers. We're talking about tip workers that's attached to slavery. We abolished that in this city. We've also added paid time off for thousands of workers. We're investing in people. My administration has not missed a beat. We have built an operation centered around people's humanity to respond to this international crisis that the federal government has been negligent in. And while doing all of that, I've still kept every single promise that I was going to invest in people.
So you can commit to you not raising property taxes, regardless of how bad the situation gets.
My budget, the $16.77 billion that I just passed, 41 alders, I believe, supported this budget. And
So
we did all of that without raising property taxes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, hopping over to the allegory once more of somebody setting your house on fire, you have to start asking, is it all on purpose? Like, ultimately, none of this stuff is like happening that is like out of control. These cities have been asking, preparing, and capacity building for this for a very long time. The sanctuary city status stuff was all done like a decade ago, a lot of these cities. A lot of these places have been pulling this crap forever. They wanted it to happen. Now you have to ask why. The reason why they want it to happen is because they need to expand the political underclass in this country. People who got too wealthy, too fast, entered the middle class. They were too successful under Donald Trump. And that, of course, eliminated the more people you take off food stamps, the more people you take off welfare, the more people you take off Medicaid and Medicare. Like, that eliminates vectors of control for the Democrat Party. So they must import a new, totally dependent political underclass to control and to vote for special goodies and privileges. The middle class was getting too big. People were getting too successful. And those people tend to vote for the free market policies that actually keep them successful. And so this is actually a cold and calculated political play for power. It's why no Democrats panicked at all about this. But their voters sure as hell are. And we say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So we will link arms with you, Chicago Democrats, who wish to put a stop to this madness in your city. Let's do this together. Huh? How about it? It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.